Okay, a quick one tonight. Page 72 and 73, still Section 1, Theory of Heat. Still Unit 3, Refrigeration and Refrigerants. Evaporator and the evaporator. At point C, the refrigerant leaves the evaporator as 100% vapor with 10 degrees Fahrenheit of evaporator superheat and at a temperature of minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The difference in enthalpy between point B and point C is the net refrigeration effect. 3. The superheated vapor enters the compressor at point D with 30 degrees Fahrenheit of total superheat and at a temperature of 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The superheated vapor is now compressed to 170 degrees Fahrenheit along the line to point E. 4. The superheated vapor leaves the compressor at point E. The refrigerant is now de-superheated from point E to the saturated vapor line. 5. The now saturated refrigerant is gradually condensed from the saturated vapor line to the saturated liquid line at 115 degrees Fahrenheit. This is referred to as rejection of the latent heat of condensation. 6. The saturated liquid is subcooled 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Brackets 115 degrees Fahrenheit minus 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Close brackets. From the saturated liquid line to point A, where it enters the metering device at 105 degrees Fahrenheit. The process then repeats itself. 3.21. Plotting the refrigeration cycle for blends with noticeable temperature glide. Brackets, zeotropic blends, close brackets. Temperature glide occurs when the refrigerant blend has many temperatures as it evaporates or condenses at a given pressure. The pressure/enthalpy diagram for refrigerants with temperature glide differs from that for refrigerants that do not have temperature glide. Figure 3.54 illustrates a skeletal pressure/enthalpy diagram for refrigerant blend with temperature glide. Figure 3.54, that's on the next page. A skeletal pressure/enthalpy diagram of a refrigerant blend with a noticeable temperature glide. Brackets near azeotropic blend, close brackets. Notice the angled isotherms. Notice that the lines of constant temperature, isotherms, are not horizontal, but are angled downward as they travel from saturated liquid to saturated vapor. As you follow the lines of constant pressure, isobars, straight across from saturated liquid to saturated vapor, more than one isotherm will be intersected. Thus, for any one pressure, evaporating or condensing, there will be a range of associated temperatures, a temperature glide. For example, in figure 3.54, for a constant pressure of 130 psia, the temperature glide is 10 degrees Fahrenheit, 70 minus 60. The isobar of 130 psia intersects both the 60 degree Fahrenheit and 70 degree Fahrenheit isobars as it travels from saturated liquid to saturated vapor. Figure 3.55. Figure 3.55, a pressure enthalpy diagram for refrigerant R407C showing the angled isotherms. Illustrates an actual pressure/enthalpy diagram for refrigerant R407C, a zeotropic refrigerant blend with very similar properties to those of R22 in air conditioning equipment. It is a blend of R32, R125, and R134A with a fairly large temperature glide, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, in the ranges of air conditioning applications. Notice the isotherms angled downward from left to right, showing temperature glide. The terms near azeotropic and zeotropic refrigerant blends are used in the HVAC/R industry because they describe temperature glide and fractionation. Azeotropic blends have negligible fractionation and temperature glide. Near azeotropic blends have some fractionation and temperature glide, while zeotropic blends have the most fractionation and temperature glide. Refer to Unit 9, Refrigerant and Oil Chemistry and Management, Recovery, Recycling, Reclaiming, and Retrofitting, for more in-depth information on refrigerants, refrigerant blends, temperature glide, fractionation. Charging methods for refrigerant blends will be covered in Unit 10, System Charging. Safety precaution. All refrigerants that have been discussed in this text are stored in pressurized containers and should be handled with care. Consult your instructor or supervisor about the use and handling of these refrigerants. Goggles and gloves should be worn while transferring the refrigerants from the container to the system. Okay, that's pages 72 and 73.